Hello, and welcome to Hearts Standard. My name is Craig Cairns. I am joined by Joel Sked. We are going to go through the latest transfer news at Hearts. It never stops. It never stops at Tynecastle. Day after day, there's just a little bit of news coming out, sometimes multiple pieces of news. And over the last couple of days, there's been a lot accumulated for us to talk about today. How are you doing, Joel?
Good, yes, mate. A lot of busy. I am having to try and get as much done as possible over the next 24 hours because I am away tomorrow evening and then away down to London for the weekend and then fly straight to Spain for Hearts pre-season on Monday. So it's just a case of head down and trying to do as much as I can.
Exactly. When we're becoming the new players, aren't we? That we are not getting, like, if there's big major stories or if there's a major tournament in the summer, we're no longer getting a break. I think we should get some sort of like FIFA Pro representation as well here.
Yes, absolutely. I think I would like to. I would like an amnesty, even if it's just like a 2-week amnesty from football and transfers and stuff. But
a blackout,
it is what it is.
It is what it is indeed. We are going to talk about, as I said, the latest transfer news. That'll include the latest on Shankland, the pre-contract that's been signed by Islam Chesnokov, and of course the Tony Bloom deal, which kind of overhangs all of this as that was confirmed today. But just before we get to that, we will just say that this video is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to S1 Jobs and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Now, as I said, Joe, the biggest news of the day today, anyway, is that the Tony Bloom deal has been completed. Do you want to just explain the latest that's come out of Tynecastle today on that, please?
Yeah, so it's what we've all been waiting and expecting is when the EGM was done last week, and it was the 3 resolutions that kind of the next step on allowing Tony Bloom to become a minority shareholder. They said it'd be kind of confirmed and completed within the next 7 to 10 days. That's been the case. I think it was, it might even been, 7 days exactly. I think it is. So that's now been confirmed. He will. And we got to hear from via club statement, got to hear from Tony Bloom for the first time, and it was announced that James Franks will take his position on the board. Now, I will have a piece. We'll both have pieces going out tomorrow, articles going out tomorrow around the Tony Bloom deal, but kind of speaking to people, trying to get some kind of background on the deal, and there's a lot of it's been a long process, but it's been relatively straightforward, where the negotiations have been quite straightforward. Everyone's been comfortable with the timeline, and it was kind of expected that it would happen in the off season, and that's been the case. James Franks, from what I understand, is a very, very close advisor of Tony Bloom. That he has spent a lot of time dealing with the club, and he's spent a lot of time dealing with the club and dealing with the negotiations, and he's going to take the place on the board. I think he's really excited by it, and I think that's where we are. Have I skipped over anything else? Obviously, he's 29% shareholding, non-voting rights, and he will. And it's at a cost of £9.86 million. And that's what I was going to say. And I found the most interesting aspect of it is I kind of wrote an article that kind of started that way, where if there was any doubts about Tony Bloom's ambition, it was very much in his second sentence of what he said, where he says, "I firmly believe in the club's ability to disrupt the pattern of domination of Scottish football, which has been in place for far too long." And the kind of conversations I've had, he's talked about or referenced, Aberdeen, Dundee United, Hearts almost doing it, and that in the 1980s when it wasn't just Celtic and Rangers.
Yeah, I thought it was my sort of I was going to say my eyes perked up. I don't think that works. When I saw the quote from Bloom, because it was sort of unusual, we haven't heard anything from him so far, so it was kind of good to hear from him, and to get confirmation that of it will be James Franks that will be taking his place on the board. On the website already, there is that news story, and Joel is also bumped a longer read if you want to go and check that out on Tony Bloom, the James deal, the Jamestown deal, the algorithms and all that kind of stuff. You will be, what's the article you'll have going out tomorrow, Joel?
It's just looking at kind of the behind the deal and the process. Just looking at over the last, the last 18 months or so, 16 months from the early beginnings of how it happened, and then kind of looking up to now, and just some bits and bobs about on kind of Franks and Bloom. And it's speaking to people, and I was excited to begin with, and the excitement has been like kind of rolling down the hill and picking up pace. And I think with Bloom's just his short but sharp statement today has just added to that excitement. And I think Hearts fans should be really excited by it. I think everyone should really be really. I don't take much to get excited about stuff around Hearts, but I really do. I think there's something tangible there. There's like a track record, and big thing is that like he and Franks recognises the potential for the club. I think a big selling point was the fact that there's this fan, they like the aspect of fan ownership, and there's an element of stability there. So it's great, and I think and hopefully there's more and more good news to come.
Yeah, sorry.
Have you just hit mute?
Sorry, you actually had given an explanation on your article there, but I was checking comments and stuff there, so I missed out on that. But I will also have a question we got last week about what the changes were to the Articles of Association. So part of the general meeting last week was to pass a few motions, and one of those was to change the Articles of Association. And we were asked what those changes were. I will have an article going out tomorrow explaining what those changes are. In a nutshell, Articles of Association are just a set of rules that sets out how the boards what the boards comprise of, how it works, the rules and responsibilities, and all those kind of things. And it's kind of like a sort of a rule book that legal entities like companies, organizations have to abide by. So I'll basically detail the changes that have been made. We'll move on to our next story here, Joel, and that is.
Oh, sorry. I just because you're talking, I don't really look at it. Comments, so I thought I may as well, because this one's to do with Bloom, so I thought I'd bring it in from the Gorgoys podcast. Great news that Bloom is on board. Wondering how much of that £9.86 million will be used for the playing squad. Graham, I can't give you a figure. I don't think Hearts would want to have any figure. Firstly, I simply don't know. Secondly, I don't think Hearts would want a figure out there, because that immediately when that impacts negotiations, etc. But I think it's key that if you're thinking there's a £9 million war chest, it's absolutely not the case. There's that money is certainly helpful with the club not in Europe, and I think it just provides a bit of allows stability, and the talk is it allows Hearts to try and plan to be far more sustainable rather than just relying on being overly reliant on benefactors.
There's also not quite as much money coming in this year as well, so that has to be taken into account. But you're right, it's not like they're going to start chucking about much bigger transfer fees or anything. It'll be like a sort of gradual increase in what's already being spent, that kind of thing, rather than money just getting thrown about. Yeah, thanks for that, man. I didn't see any, when I had a quick look, I didn't see any of the Bloom comments, but ones that relate to Bloom, but cheers. But we'll go on to Islam Chesnokov. There is one on that, which is one of the reasons I got distracted a minute ago. Anything in Chesnokov, this is from Chris Caw, anything in Chesnokov not being in the Tobol squad for their game today? I had a look. The game's ongoing at the moment.
Yes.
And they're drawing 1-1. He doesn't appear to be there. So that's. I'm just checking the bench, and I can't see him unless I've missed him. He doesn't seem to be in the team. So that comes after the news yesterday that Derek McInnes said he had signed a pre-contract, but it's not quite as straightforward that is it, Joe? As that is it, Joe? Because I think it's October. I think McInnes might have said September yesterday, and then he spoke about if we have to wait until January, but that would mean because the window wouldn't be open again until January, so he wouldn't be able. He would become a Hearts player officially in October unless he was released before then, ahead of the transfer window closing here, and then he wouldn't be able to play for Hearts until January.
So just Alistair Easton makes a well. I don't know the complexities or the rules of the Kazakh Cup, but Alistair mentions he's suspended. And if you look back at the two previous rounds, so the last 16 and the quarterfinal, and their wins, he was booked in both. So I think that adds up. So I would certainly. I was going to say I was going to temper that because.
Journalism on the fly there.
I did just save. I'm not even going to bother googling Kazakhstan league cup suspension rules. McInnes spoke about it yesterday, and I think he was being very open and honest about it with the fact that they don't. It's just an awkward situation just by how the Kazakhs or the timings of the Kazakh league. He's contracted until the end of October, and then he can't really be he can't be registered to play until January. So the big thing is you'd Hearts want him in the door now, but that they need to agree with Tobol Kastani, and it should be noted that Tobol are 6 points off top in the Kazakh league, but they've got 2 games in hand. Chesnokov is one of the most important players to any team. To any team in the league. He's viewed as they regard him very, very highly, and it's not as if they need the money to an extent. They're not like they won't. In the past, we've seen it all where someone signs a pre-contract and then you're maybe able to get them a lot cheaper. They are likely to want to hold out for more. So it's dependent on a number of things. It's not straightforward. It's one of those where it could happen. It could happen the next week. It could happen at the end of the window, or it might just have to wait till January. So I think speaking to a Kazakh journalist, he suggested that something that McInnes said yesterday was that. Like at the moment, it's looking like January because Tobol don't want to lose him. But it also could mean, on the flip side, if Tobol are able to source a replacement, that could make it easier for Hearts to get to do a deal. So yeah, it's up in the air at the moment. But like the good news is that one way or another, whether it's this window or the next window, Chesnokov will become a Hearts player with the pre-contract, and understandable. There's a lot of excitement around him.
James Govan says, I thought that was the Hearts away top for a second. So did I, James. So did I. And we will go into, there's a couple of others on Chesnokov here. If you just give me...
Just when you're having a look, because I favoured it, Nick Collar asks, where can we buy your fake away top, Joe? It's unfortunately, it's not a Hearts top. It is a Philadelphia Phillies top, which I saw and thought, oh, that's maroon and white, so I'll buy it.
And we've just got here, has it been confirmed about Chesnokov? It has, yes. But, Liam C's asking, it has been confirmed, but as we've just been discussing there, as when he officially becomes a Hearts player, it still is very much up in the air at the moment. And on the same topic, but slightly different. Robert Bond's asking, there is certainly a feeling reminiscent of the start of the Burley era amongst my Jambo mates. Are we right to compare the atmosphere in Gorgie to that period 20 years ago? Now, I would say I know where he's coming from there. I don't want to get ahead of myself, and I wouldn't say that Hearts are necessarily going to start the season the way that George Burley's team started that season, but I am I do feel like there's an excitement there that it's the right man. And if he and the players that are coming in as well, some of the players that are coming in, I think are looking really good. And so I understand to an extent where that excitement's coming from. I mean, I would stop short of saying that it's going to fly out the traps like the Burley team did. But there's a quiet confidence there that McInnes can do something with this team and these sort of added resources that he's got.
There's something, I think you wrote it today. It's coming out, I think it'll be at 10:30 tonight, where he's talking about kind of the expectation and pressure. Obviously, because it's embargoed, they can't give much away. But like some of the comments he made, you're just thinking, okay, he's like, he means business.
He just knows what he's talking about, and it's not hot air either. He completely understands. I think we spoke about this about Critchley to the extent that he was making an effort to. He was trying to ingrain himself in the culture of that and things like that. But McInnes is already in it. McInnes already understood Hearts before he came into the job.
It's really don't want to criticise. This shouldn't be deemed a criticism of Critchley, but with McInnes, it's a lot more natural, authentic. Just because, like you said, he's been in it, he understands it a lot better, and that's just natural, having managed over 700 games in Scottish football. In terms of the excitement of the Burley era, yeah, there's definitely elements to that. I think there was more mystery around the 2005-2006 team, just because there wasn't the social media, or trying to think social media, it wasn't really prevalent then, so it was harder to, you weren't discussing so much online, and everyone wasn't so aware of these players coming in, so there was still that element of mystery with Roman Bednar and Michael Pospisil, and you had the Middlesbrough friendly where everyone was like, oh bloody hell, this is the first time I've seen them. And there was
I'm trying to remember if it was before that game or after that in the Kelly game, but I remember just seeing a picture in that was me, like the equivalent of social media was in the Edinburgh Evening News, seeing a graph, somebody had made up a graphic of the team. It was like Hartley and Scatchell. It's the first time I've kind of seen them all on the page together. So
there's and for example, with the Middlesbrough friendly, and Roman Bednar was getting taken off at half time to try and protect them and not tout them from any other teams seeing them and stealing away. So I think there's both. Absolutely, I get the comparison. I think they're both different types of excitement, but excitement nonetheless. So it's really, really good. And if we can get, obviously, I think the key is, at the moment, the priority is a right winger, and whether that's Chesnokov or someone else. And then beyond that is very much regarding Shankland and his future, with a lot of rumours kicking about.
Let's use a comment or two to transition into Shankland. And if you do see any other Shankland ones, then please bring them up. But Lewis Lennox, I almost said Lennox. Lewis Lennox says, Wilson was seen without a squad number on his training kit. Possible loan move, which Scottish. Now, I noticed that myself when I was there yesterday, but I didn't read too much into it. Came back later than the other players. He and Adam Forrester was wearing number 32, which I thought was pretty strange. I thought if he was going to change number, would he not go for something like closer to the starting 11 or something like that, or just keep 35? I don't know. So they've not officially been released yet. I don't think there's anything to be read into there, really. And then someone else suggests here, Reese Hildersley says his best shout is he's waiting to see if the number 9 frees up, because we are now going to talk about the latest on Lawrence Shankland, and that is that it was just kind of like an update on. It was very close to being the update as there is no update, but they were due to speak about it again last night. Derek McInnes is still very keen to get Lawrence Shankland back at Hearts, but at the same time, he's got a firm deadline. He's got not a firm deadline, he said, because those are too antagonistic. But he was pretty much saying that by the end of this week, by the time we go to Spain, he wants it. He wants the air cleared, and to know what's going on, because he doesn't want to miss out on other targets. He'd want Lawrence Shankland to be in Spain with them if he is going to be part of their plans, and all those kind of related things. So, yeah, what did you make of that news yesterday, Joel?
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it moved. It had moved on like slightly, because obviously he gave an update on Friday, and it was just kind of, we're getting closer to the conclusion. I thought it was more interesting on what he kind of said about Shankland and how much he would be looking forward to working with him again. Obviously, signed him for Aberdeen. It didn't, just because it didn't work out there because he was a young guy, doesn't mean it's going to have an impact this time around. I can understand. I've seen a few Hearts fans comments like why are you waiting for him and stuff, but there's two sides to this. Firstly, McInnes is well aware of what he can bring to the Hearts side, and it saves Hearts having to try and replace him. It's like, it takes a lot of pressure off. Of course, there's Jamestown there, but it's not foolproof where you've got a guy who scored 68 goals in 3 games. 68 goals in three seasons, and is proven at this level. Then you've also got from Hearts side or our side of things, is that I have to be remembered. We were waiting for 30 years for someone like Lawrence Shankland to come along, and yes, you want someone to be all in on Hearts, but I think he's within his right to go, you know what, I'm going to take a wee bit of time to see what my options are, because it is a key juncture in his career. It's a big decision, a big move for him. And normally with players, you think, right, time to move on. But with Shankland, I think it's worth waiting that wee bit extra. You have to remember what we've always done. Hearts have already done good. That's already done. Sorry, I've got a message for the. Hearts have already been really proactive. 6 signings in. It's not as if the season starts tomorrow. There's still a couple of weeks until the first game of the season. Ideally, as McInnes says, you want him on the plane to Spain. You want him part of your pre-season, because then you get up and running. Shankland mentioned that at the end of last season. He kind of wants to be in somewhere early for pre-season, because I think he's well aware that if you don't, then you're playing catch up, and you know how awkward last season started as well. So I think I am where McInnes is worth waiting for, but obviously not forever, because Hearts will need to move on. And the good thing is that with Jamestown, they've got targets there, they've got options there. They can react to that and move on them.
Cindy Devine says, do you think Shankland's potentially in a position to get a bigger signing-on fee than he would if he'd received, if it was a new contract or extension? And I think that's one of the things about running your contract down. One of the benefits of running your contract down, the club doesn't have to pay a transfer fee, so they can theoretically give you a bigger signing-on fee. How that works when you're trying to bring a player back that's just left a few weeks ago, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. James Govan here says, if Shankland hasn't signed by the time the flight leaves, then surely that's it. McInnes wasn't quite as definitive as that, but he kind of sort of hinted towards that. And then at the same time, James Govan says McInnes is probably bigging up Shankland in these interviews to make him feel loved. Yeah, I did notice that. And he's, I think it's sincere as well, though. I do think
100%.
Because kind of some of the things you're talking about there, I think he might have even used these words yesterday, McInnes. You can't just go out and get another Lawrence Shankland. You have to build something different for your attack. You don't just go out and get a like-for-like replacement. You don't go find somebody who's going to score 20 to 30 goals for you next season. Yeah,
I know that sounds. That's what I was talking about. Like with Jamestown, is that it is an incredible tool, but I mean it's still bringing someone into a new team and adapting. Whereas Shankland, he's proven, and I think it was Adrian said, it makes a really good point, and something that McInnes alluded to. Shank's playing in his natural position with wingers on board. We have to try and keep him at any cost. Is that I think Hearts will be in a better position, or he'll be in a better position to succeed and go back to not last season but the season before when he scored 31 goals if he was to return. So yeah, it's I would hope. There's obviously been loads of chat kicking about, and there has been for the last the last few weeks, the message I've seen, I've heard Shankland signing. I heard Shankland's said no to no one. Like, people can say as much as they want, but no one really knows until it's
he was on his honeymoon for a few weeks. It's not there was nothing moving, nothing was going on.
He was getting married.
Aye, and there was a couple of weeks ago where everybody was like posting tributes to him and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, he's left again. Just before we segue into the next one, Adam, jumping back a wee bit, Adam from Gorgie Talk saying similar excitement to the Romanov, but a really different model. Patience is key, and Bloom's multi-club structure as living proof success can happen over time. I totally agree that the patience is key there. It's not all going to be smooth sailing, and I think we have to just be along for the ride. Just before we go into talking about yesterday's training and a wee bit more generally, one of the big takeaways from training yesterday, squad-wise, was goalkeeping situation, and it's far from straightforward right now. So we were talking about not that long ago whether are we going to be entering another season where is it Clark or Gordon? And it looks like we're no far off the situations. Like, can we please have Clark or Gordon? Because both of those finished last season injured, as did Ryan Fulton, who played the last few matches of the season. And Derek McInnes revealed that if Hearts had actually made the Scottish Cup final, and it would have been interesting to see what would have been allowed to happen there in terms of like an emergency loan and stuff. But he said Hearts would not have had a fit goalkeeper for the final.
I would imagine it would have been Jamie McDonald.
Right, okay.
But I don't know. Because
you'd be able to go out quickly and get an emergency loan if that was midway through the season. So I wonder whether that rule would apply as well. But yes, there would still be a keeper potentially on the books that they could use. Yes.
No, because I mean, Jamie McDonald is literally signed.
No, I know that. But what I'm saying is, but even when you've lost, because he's not registered as a first team keeper, and if you lose 3 first team keepers to injury, you're entitled. I don't think Jamie McDonald comes into it. I think that would still trigger the circumstances for you to be allowed to go out and get an emergency loan. I mean, I don't know whether Hearts would try to do that above playing Jamie McDonald. I'm not entirely I don't know what would be available out there. I mean, St Mirren ended up with Zlamau when they had to do it. Birigiti ended up at Kilmarnock when they were looking for an emergency loan goalkeeper. So yeah, it very much depends on who's out there and willing and all that kind of stuff. But yes, it should be okay. They're expecting Fulton and Gordon won't travel to Spain. McInnes's logic is that if you're not going to train with the squad and playing the warm-up game, be available for the warm-up game, then there's no point in going over. So that's why Craig Gordon's not going over. Decisions will be made on Clark and Fulton, but it looks at the moment that they will travel and they will both be fit for the League Cup games. Yeah,
they'll travel with either Harry Stone or Liam McFarlane, and found it interesting. I think the most interesting was kind of line was a line that McInnes said about being first in. It's like if you got first in, then that's your opportunity. He referenced Kilkelly and Aberdeen, so he signed Will Dennis and Kieran O'Hara at a similar time. Will Dennis got in first, was given started first, and then held on to the number 1 jersey. And then similarly at Aberdeen, he signed Joe Lewis and Neil Alexander. Joe Lewis got in slightly earlier, so he was kind of given the opportunity and never looked back. So it does seem that if Zander Clark's fit, you'd imagine he'll be, it's kind of like in the position where it's like his to lose. So yeah, it'll be providing it all progresses. But I think they were due to kind of step up their training today. They were training yesterday, but I think they were due to step up their training today. So and then Adam asked
I was just about to click that.
Yeah, just about between McFarlane and Stone for the last seat on the plane.
It's an interesting one.
It's an interesting one. I think it could depend on potential interest if either are
exactly
if either have interest to go on loan and stuff. So be where they sit. You do look at both are under contract for another year. Harry Stone's in a really interesting one because he's now 23 and he's after all that, after a lot of kind of hype and expectation, like going back to when he was 18, a lot of people thought he could be, at this age now, he could be the one that takes over from Gordon. It's not really kicked on for him, whereas like Leo McFarlane had a brilliant loan at East Fife and a far more straightforward loan than Harry Stone did. So yeah, I think it probably might more depend on potential loan moves out.
Aye, that's exactly what I was going to say. It might depend on whether there's a, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sure when the lower League Cup. Maybe they are back now because
they are back. Yeah, because
they'll be starting the League Cup at the same time, won't they? Yeah. So that will definitely, because I am certain that there will be interest in Liam McFarlane with the season that he had, the stature he's got. I'm sure there'll be clubs queuing up for Liam McFarlane to go on loan. So I agree with you. It'll probably, I don't know whether it'll be picked on ability or availability, basically. Right, let's move on to our final topic. We're just going to talk about I wrote an article yesterday about Inside Hearts' return to training. They returned officially on Friday, but it was to do the tests that players always do when they return the first day back. There was some training over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday, but they were back doing their full training sessions this week. We were there on Tuesday. Will I put this wee video on? I don't think the sound's going to be too loud. If it is, I'll turn it down. But yes, one of the things that stood out to me right away, besides this video, just like the other footage, was Kizaridis. He looks like he's got a really good touch, and we posted this today, and a lot of people seem to be getting excited about the Kizaridis, who had number 89, squad number 89. I know we're saying not to read too much into them, but everybody seemed to have some sort of sensible number, and he had 89. So I wonder if that's going to be the number that he sports.
Yeah, because you watching that, and then because you when I was messaging you yesterday morning about keeping an eye out for players who weren't there, but you mentioned straight away about Kizaridis' first touch, and then I think Hearts put up a goal. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, and it was a wee outside of the foot finish, and you can't beat an outside of the foot finish. So he's definitely someone I'm excited about. And why would you be? And you'd throw Chesnokov into that situation as well, where guys are arriving who are exciting, score goals, cross the ball, can assist, and there's a lot of excitement. In terms of other new players, I'll ask you a bit more about training, but myself and Barry from the News, we spoke to Claudio Braga for something that's coming out on Tuesday, I think it is Monday, Tuesday. Like even him, he was brilliant, really, really good and really positive, brilliant English. Seems like a really good character. So yeah, a lot to be excited about. Aside from that, was there much else that you took from training other than a stud to the leg from James Wilson?
Right enough. I'll come at that in a second. But thank you. I'm glad you reminded me. I would have forgotten about that. But just to add on Braga, before we move on from him, the clip that they posted, that Hearts posted from him in training, was him hitting the post, and that really fits into what Tom Irving was saying about him, that he goes for the corners, like he goes for the low percentage sort of areas of the goal, so he misses the target fractionally quite a lot, or he hits the woodwork. I think that's what Tom was saying just after he signed, wasn't he?
Yeah. So basically, he'll try and if he hits a target, then there's a goal because he's so precise, so deliberate.
He's not like hitting them at the keeper and down the keeper's throat and things like that. But the other side of that is that he does like miss the target more often than some other strikers and things like that. There's a lot of players. That's the first thing that stands out. There's hundreds of them. And yes, I was walking behind James Wilson at one point. I'd kept my distance from the line. I was still in line with all the other kind of photographers and that kind of stuff. And he was stepping back, and his studs got me right in the Achilles. It's okay today. I did feel it at the time and a wee bit yesterday, but it's nothing that's kind of lasted or anything like that. I'm not insured like he is.
Imagine it was a real bad one and you had to get stretchered off from training.
Or I injured him.
Yeah.
I would not be able to show my face at Tynecastle again. Injured their most valuable asset. No, he apologised to me a few times, and he didn't. It was just one of those things. But it fits into the character that he is. He's a very nice guy. There was a really good atmosphere. I mean, I'm sure that can be the case at pretty much any club when it's the first few days back and all that kind of stuff. And I suppose the key thing was that McInnes just looks comfortable with his players right away. And he seems like the kind of character that would be like that anyway. But there was none of this kind of like standing in the side, sort of familiarizing himself, or like he was right in amongst it and right sort of like being vocal and all those kind of things. And I don't know, I feel like I'm saying something that's just kind of quite obvious, but I think if you'd witnessed it, you'd see what I mean. That there is just sort of like a level of comfort there with his players. He's really comfortable in his own skin, it seems, and it feels everything just feels like a good fit.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's one of those where you read the comments on YouTube when Hearts have put stuff up or on social media, and it just like, I know it's such a simple thing, and it's easy for us to get excited about because it's a new manager, but we're just like a feeling of like I know he's a head coach, or he's termed as a head coach, but just like a proper manager, and that's you can get that feeling or aura from him.
Aye, he knows how to work the media, and he knows how to. He knows what he's doing, and it seems like Hearts are moving in the right direction. It seems like the right kind of signings are coming in the door. He's made a big thing about physicality. Lots of these players that are coming in are bigger. A few of them are quicker than what was there before, and it's without getting too ahead of ourselves. It feels. It's an exciting time. Who knows what results is going to bring, but it's an exciting time. Have you anything else? Any other business before we kind of wrap up, Joel?
I will just bring in a couple of comments. So, Gorgie Boys podcast about Finlay Pollock after signing a new deal. Will he be involved? What I would say is I wouldn't rule him out being part of the first team going forward. It goes back to what Craig said about physicality, but more so pace. He is one of the quickest, and it'll be a big thing is just how he progresses with his recovery this summer. If he can get back quick and he can get back in the training, he can be involved in the League Cup games going forward. But yeah, I would I wouldn't be surprised if he is a part of the attack that going forward.
Yeah, I agree. Especially now that he's shown that he can play through the middle as well in Hearts. I mean, right now they lack a sort of physical presence through the middle, but at the same time, he's not fit right now. And if he came back, he'd be behind everybody else. So it could be that he's too far down the pecking order by the time he is fit. I'm not entirely sure when he is due back, but like with a few of the other young players, if you're going to be part of the first team squad this season, then making a mark in the League Cup's the group stage is a good chance to do it when the rest of the squad's still settling, there's still players coming in and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that might work against them, the fact that he's coming into pre-season with an injury. Were any other comments?
Just Adam asking about Tate. So Livingston are very keen to bring him back. There's others where I think I hadn't heard Dundee. I think Barry reported that in Even News today. I hadn't heard Dundee, but I know there's other Premiership clubs monitoring him, and I think loan again. It depends on what he could do over the next few weeks. If he really impresses in Spain. If he goes to Spain and really impresses in the friendlies, then who knows, that could be a role for him. But at the very least, he'll go out on loan to a Premiership team and get minutes. His view is he wants the challenge to be a Hearts player, and if that's this summer or if that's going out on loan to the Premiership, making that next step and coming back next summer to do that, it's but he's in a really good position after that Livingston loan move. That's an important thing, where there's a lot of people, there'll be a lot of interest because of how well he did, and it puts him in a position with his contract where he can, if he won even if a good 6 months, if he does go out, and then he can put himself right back in the thoughts of the manager.
I've got one other here, and I don't know if you've got any more after that, but Robert Bond saying from the training video yesterday, Halkett looked as though he's lost quite a few pounds in weight. He must be serious about making a bid for a regular place in the team. It's something I noticed as well, but somebody had already, I was speaking to somebody before the players came out, and they had told me that they had seen Halkett on Friday, and ripped was the word that they used. That he didn't have an ounce of body fat on him, and he was absolutely ripped. And I know that he's never really been that overweight, but I think with all the injuries, he was in the legs and that sort of area. I think he was a little bit bigger, wasn't he?
I think one thing I'll say is that every time, so I've interviewed Halkett numerous times over his spell at Hearts, and every time I have seen him up close, the man is absolutely ripped, and he's not like here. It's like when people accuse him of being fat, he is anything but. If there's anything, maybe he's from training, sort of coming back, and he's his rehab, where he is maybe more muscly than they may need to be.
Right,
but
okay.
It can just maybe he just he's the type of player that probably takes a while to get back up to speed after injury, to find his fitness, but. There's that's something I wanted to dispel, was that in his time here, I have never, having been up close to Halkett, I've never looked at him and thought he is overweight, and in terms of being fat, absolutely not. He's an absolute machine, and if there's anything, it's maybe just because he has been out for maybe so long that it takes him up to speed, or it's a case of, like you said, with his legs, he's done a lot of maybe stuff in the gym, and it's just about a case of finding that balance. But absolutely he's big and in a good sense, physical in a good sense. So
yeah, the football players that get called fat is wild. the football players that get shamed for just being, I don't know, just having a naturally bigger body shape than the other athletes that they're standing next to is absolutely wild. Usually from overweight men that are shouting it at them as well. Right.
One last thing, Craig, and it was just William Stevenson saying, thank you so much for sharing the upcoming charity game on Twitter. I just shared it. So basically, on July 27th, Arniston Rangers are playing Edinburgh City Giants in Arniston, and it's in memory of Campbell James Stevenson and Robbie William Wrigley, two young children who sadly passed away, and it's a game in their memory, and also to raise money for and support Held in Our Hearts, a charity that is kind of provides specialist baby loss counselling and support to bereaved families. So like a really important charity that does excellent work. So I just wanted to raise that again. And I think if you can, I've got my Twitter. There's a Just Giving page, or there's a link to that, or more information about the game. So just wanted to raise that as well.
Thanks very much for that, Joel. If you want to know more about what we've been talking today, please get over to heartstandard.co.uk. If you're too lazy for that, you can just scroll down to the comment section, and I've linked 4 or 5 articles that we've been talking about today. Other than that, we will be back at some point. Probably have some sort of video on Friday. I think I might have an interview about one of the new signings coming up. Joel and I will be back at some point next week in some capacity. Joel will be in Spain. We'll sort out all those logistics then. But until then, we will see you all soon. Oh, are you going to come in again there, Joel? You did like a breath as if you were going to say something. I
was going to, then you're in your outro. I was like, nah, don't bother. I'm just going to say the only thing is that if the only time we would be back is if there is an emergency podcast Lawrence Shankland related that needs to be done.
He's on the plane.
even if when I'm in London trying to spend time with my other half, I would still try and fit it in. But don't let her hear me say that.
Excellent. I look forward to that little incognito pod. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks for everybody's comments. Sorry we couldn't get to them all. We will see you all soon.